I want to thank everybody for being here today. I really appreciate it. I know it's last minute. Everyone scrambled to get this done, and quite an impressive turnout. I know this is an important story. So I'm going to start with an opening statement that I'll probably stumble through, and then I'll take your questions and answer your questions as best I can. I just want to remind everybody that I probably won't have the answers to all the questions, and there's some questions I won't be able to answer, but I promise that I will be as forthcoming as I possibly can be. So let me just start with an opening statement. And I think the best thing to start off with is to be very clear. June Jones is the greatest football coach in UH history. You know, what he was able to accomplish and the joy he brought to Rainbow fans, the people of Hawaii, it'll be forever cherished. Some of my favorite football memories. You know, but what's right is right. And I want to provide some important context to the situation that's been going on for more than a week now, and a perspective that's not being covered in mainstream media and social media. So please bear with me. But let's start when hiring someone. When you're hiring someone, work history matters, especially if they have previously worked for you. And Coach Jones left in 2008, and it was a different time back then. And though there were record successes on the field, there are also concerns with priorities in student athletes and acting as a de facto athletic director and chancellor. He often demonstrated little interest in being accountable to his supervisor. And this was before the SMU job became a possibility. And when he left for greener pastures, which is no fault to him, you know, he fought UH on his buyout for nearly a year. And remember that UH and the state pulled out all the stops to keep him in Hawaii, and he blamed it on UH and broken promises and said that leaving was the only way he could send the message. You know what? But moving on to greener pastures, there's no shame in that. And, you know, then there's 2012 when he was up for the ASUH head coach job, and ASU withdrew the offer at the last minute, reportedly on character concerns. Then he left SMU in 2014 after an 0-2 start. You know, work history matters, and leadership would be foolish not to take all of that into consideration. It says something about someone's integrity and character. And then you look at the way Coach Jones has approached this job opening. Shortly after the job was posted, he began lobbying publicly, a full court press in the media and behind the scenes. You know, this isn't unheard of, but it's highly unusual, and it was deliberate. And he lobbied for the job publicly. Why? He's June Jones. He needs no introductions. Why not apply and respect the process? But instead of standing on his resume, he put as much pressure on UH as possible before we even met with him for the first time. It wasn't an honest negotiation. It was about building up enough pressure to force UH to capitulate. Now, instead of putting the time in to negotiate on a contract both sides could agree on, Coach and AD Matlin met for about 30 minutes yesterday. It was their second meeting, and UH had already increased the contract length from 2 to 3 years. Imagine what could have been accomplished if they put hours into that conversation. Instead, Jones walked out and it went public. The meeting started at 3:30, ended at 4 p.m. First national reports came out less than an hour later with quotes from his agent. You know, it's about integrity. And Jones showed zero integrity for this process. You know who did? The other candidates who did not grant media interviews. You know who else showed integrity? Athletic Director Dave Matlin. He didn't go to the media with his concerns or plans beforehand to undermine Jones. Over his 7-year tenure over UH Athletics, David Matlin has shown nothing but integrity. He's not perfect, the Graham hiring being an obvious example, but he's overseeing arguably the most challenging Division I program in the country. And that's before losing Aloha Stadium. He's hired 13 coaches in that time, including Nick Rolovich and other coaches that have been swept away by bigger schools for more money. And that's why he has the full support of UH leadership. After 7 years, we know who Dave Matlin is. He has always, first and foremost, put the interest of the university ahead of anything else. Jones, on the other hand, during the short meeting, he ended with Matlin demanded control over marketing so he could eliminate the rainbows again. He still has no interest in being accountable to a supervisor, and his refusal to continue negotiation proves that he has no interest. And this public campaign, it's ugly. A petition to fire Matlin, the phone numbers of both AD Matlin and President Lasner shared on social media with a call out to flood their offices with calls. This is pilau. When Matlin met with Coach Jones, it was not about returning to past glory and giving him the keys to the castle. It was about the future of the program, short-term and long-term, which, despite Jones' questionable strategy to negotiate in public, we still wanted to find a way for him to help lead that effort. Matlin went in with a plan for the future, looking for a partner. It was never going to be 100% on Jones's terms, and it was never going to be 100% on Matlin's terms. But the negotiations ended. And complaints about micromanaging, the hiring of assistant coaches is a red herring. Every hire at UH requires approval of at least one level above the supervisor. The football team's no exception to that. It's called governance. And with that, I will take your questions.
Can you please use the raise hand function so you can call on, please?
Jen Buniza. Go ahead, Jen.
So as far as what you would be offering any other coaches, would it be something similar, or do you have a blanket general offer that is being put out there to the candidates?
I think it's fair to say that it really depends on the candidates. And so, and Coach Jones was a unique candidate with the history and the experience he brings and the connections to the past. And so, I think that's why he was also looked upon as someone who could really help build to the future. And so I think it would depend on the candidates. I think Alan was next. Go ahead, Alan.
Do you know what the details of the succession plan that was alluded to in David Matlin's statement were?
I think those details will have to come out a little bit later. Yeah, I think some of that information we still have to just keep under wraps until the next head coach is named. Let's go to Kyle.
Hey, Dan, the reported, 2 to 3 year contract is, way, less than a normal, like in the history since 1999, it's been 5 to 4 years. Why such a short leash, or why such a short time frame for this initial contract? And Jones alluded to it yesterday, saying, it's not conducive to recruiting to only be here for 2 years when his recruitment class can't even be there through their full 4 years.
I think the answer to that question is, I kind of alluded to it in the statement, that there was a beginning of a negotiation that within the first 20 or 30 minutes, that went from 2 to 3 years. Again, who knows what would have happened if the conversations kept going. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it. And that's definitely the way we're looking at it. I think everything was on the table, but there's going to have to be some give and take. And that's what we were looking for. And unfortunately, the negotiations ended. I have already lost track of who raised their hand in what order, so I apologize.
We'll go with Josh next. We'll go with Josh next.
Oh, okay, thanks, Brent. You got that? Okay, Josh.
And Dan, thank you. Two-part question. When people listen to this statement and they hear some of the concerns that have been shared from the past and even ASU, I think the first question some will say is, with all of that, why still extend an offer to June if there were those concerns? And the second part to the question is, given what June Jones said last night, that he's still interested in coaching this team, from the UH perspective, is the door closed?
So I think to answer your first question, I'm going to actually need you to ask it one more time, because I don't want to misspeak. Can you? And then we'll take the second one afterwards. So sorry again, Josh. Can you?
No, it's okay. To reiterate the first question, given some of the things you were describing about some of the past issues, people hear that, they would ask the question, why still offer a contract to him? I think that's what the negotiations were about. That to address any concerns that might be there, to set some guardrails, to put a plan in place, a plan that, we had an idea of what that plan would be, and share it with Coach, and hopefully there'd be a give and take, and we could get to a point where we're all in agreement. And it's not about reviving this program immediately. It's about the long-term future of the program. And that was something that we were hoping to accomplish. But again, unfortunately, the negotiations had ended earlier than we would have liked. And your second, actually, okay, I'm only going to give Josh this acceptance because I didn't call him on it at first, but we're going to have to just answer one question at a time. But Josh, go ahead with your second question. I apologize for that. I thought it was kind of connected.
No worries.
June Jones said that
he's still interested in coaching this team. Is the door closed from the UH side, though?
I think the only thing I can say there is that the job is still open. But remember too that we unfortunately, time is of the essence right now. So we're moving forward, but the job has not been filled yet. Who's next, Brent?
Keith DeMolder.
Hey, Keith.
Hey Dan, how we doing? The main question I have is just, is there a chance to reconcile these differences? You said the job is still open, so there's still a chance, but what is the university's perspective? Are they leaning more toward, is there a chance that like this can be ramified if June Jones comes back to the table and is willing to negotiate?
Again, I'm going to say anything's possible. We haven't named the coach yet. And I think I just have to leave it at that. I can't speculate any further. I really don't have any insight into the actual what's going on a minute by minute basis with the coaches, the opening for the UH football coach. And it's been open for 8 days now. And everyone involved has been working day and night. And so again, the job's still open. Anything's possible.
Steven Tsai.
Are you even allowed to offer a succession plan? And if so, is this only applied to June or did it apply to all the other coaches? Like say if Timmy Chang, for example, were offered the job, but there also be a succession plan that he would be out after 2-3 years?
So I think I answered that question earlier, but what I can say is that every offer to every coach would be different based on experience, history. So I guess not necessarily. A succession plan, if we went with a younger coach, that would be our succession plan. But a succession plan to have someone in place with experience who could mentor the future. If we had that opportunity, we wanted to take advantage of it. We felt like we had that opportunity with Coach Jones. And again, unfortunately, the negotiations had ended.
Sam Spangler.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Dan. Across the college football landscape, powerful coaches are given the keys to the vehicles. Is UH not willing to play that game?
We want to create an environment where whoever leads the UH football program is in the best place that they can succeed. But I don't think that means they have to get the keys to the castle. And we're not any other football program. We're not a Power 5 program. We are Hawaii. We're unique. We need, I think the way that the University of Hawaii has operated, I think under President Lasner, I think the athletic department under David Matlin, is that we are creating a team of people that look out for the interests of the University of Hawaii, first and foremost, and delivering on our mission of providing affordable, quality education to the people of Hawaii. And student athletes are a key role to that. So I guess the simple answer to your question, Sam, sorry, is that no, I don't think we're willing to give anybody the keys to the castle, whether they're the top rated cancer scientist, researcher in the country, or the best football coach in the country. It's a team. It's about the University of Hawaii, and whoever joins this team, they got to be part of that team. We've got to watch each other's backs.
Dave Verdon.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dan. So you said a lot of positive things and a lot of negative things about June Jones. Now, my question has to do with the general, in talking with coaches and prospective coaches and for many coaching searches and hiring processes, the general etiquette seems to be if you're asked to apply, you might have a much better chance for the job. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we believe that Coach Jones was not asked to apply. And if all these positive things and then he gets a job offer, why was it that he has, I believe, never been asked to apply for any of these openings for head coach of football?
So let me start with what you said about negative and positive comments. We take no joy in having to provide this context because it does include negative. And context and comments. This isn't the way we operate. As a University of Hawaii, we want to try to take the high road as much as possible. Unfortunately, we had to defend ourselves. We needed to get another perspective out there, and that's why we're here today. That's what I'll say about the negative comments. Regarding general etiquette, when was the first June Jones story to pop, the first interview that he went and did with the media? The public campaign for June Jones started before Todd Graham he had even resigned. So I think it was pretty assumed that everyone, I'm pretty sure he applied before we asked anybody to apply. I'd have to double check that, but I don't understand why that's even an issue. The fact of the matter is he was applied.
Since you went there for a second time,
okay.
I wanted to take the high road and not mention it, but I resent your implications. And my boss is Curtis Moriyama. My boss is not June Jones. I had not spoken to him in probably a year. We maybe exchanged a text, very brief text exchange. I was not put up by him or his people to do anything. All right. And I think I can speak for I'm only speaking for myself and my coworkers. Okay.
So Dave, first of all, allow me to apologize. I really wasn't talking about you specifically. Second of all, the Star Advertiser, you have to name a media outlet that didn't do a June Jones story right out of the gate. So, yeah, I'm not blaming the media for doing their job. I'm not blaming you for doing your job and for you for having an editorial. I'm just saying that the fact of the matter is that word got out pretty quick, whether it was through kind of an underground covert campaign of emails and calls, social media posts, or if it was approaching the media and doing stories. If I was still a reporter and June Jones called me and said, hey, I want to describe my new offense to you, I would do the story. So no disrespect meant. Don't always agree with your columns, but absolutely respect you as a journalist. Who's next, Brent?
Alan Hoshida.
Alan.
Thanks again. Who has the final say in this decision?
The decision to
whoever is hired as the next head coach, who has the final say in that decision?
Sure. So basically what the process is Dave Matlin would make a recommendation. And like I had stated earlier about assistant coaches, his hires have to be approved at the next level. And that next level would be UH President David Lasner. And most likely the Board of Regents would also have to be involved. 2 regents would have to be involved in approving a salary depending on whether it goes over 500,000 or not. And then also too, if it was a contract for over 5 years, that's another thing that would also require a regent for us to consult with the Board of Regents.
Sam Spangler.
Sam. You there, Sam?
Yeah, sorry, I had a hard time unmuting myself. When you talk about work experience and prior history with this hire, if you have coaches with no prior head coaching experience, is that also counted against them?
I think the best answer to that, and again, I'm actually not doing the hiring, so I should never speculate, but I will in this particular instance and speculate that every candidate will be unique and every one of their qualities and their positives and negatives would be taken into account along with the other people, the other candidates and how they weigh against them. So it's a number of factors. I think going with someone like June Jones and then trying to set something up for the future where someone gets mentored or others get mentored and there's a transition is ideal. And then also too, the fact of the matter is that we are in the Mountain West, which is one of the bottom 3 or 4 conferences in college football. We are among the have-nots. Our last coach was the 2nd lowest paid coach in the Mountain West. And so beggars can't be choosers. So we're going to have to find the best fit for us that also fits our situation.
Steven Tsai, did you have another question or is your
Yeah,
hand-
I did.
Okay.
It seems like Matlin's comments yesterday were that an actual offer was made, but yet you seem to indicate that the negotiations were ongoing. Was he actually made an offer? Were you prepared to make him your head coach?
Well, I
You
think
offered him
making
the
an
job?
offer is the beginning of a negotiations. And so there obviously was a counteroffer, and in the brief time that they met, it went from 2 to 3 years. And again, who knows how long it could have been if the meeting had continued and, everything was hashed out and discussed. So I'm not really sure what the correct answer is to your question, Steve. I
No,
guess
I just
you
wanted
could
to know
say there was
whether
an
you
offer,
actually-
but everything was on the table when that offer was made. And so it wasn't like, this is the offer, it's this or nothing. Absolutely, that
No,
was
no,
not
just
the
wondering-
case.
No, I was just wondering, was that an actual job offer? Did you offer him the job, or were you still negotiating?
Again, I think I just answered your question, Steve, as best I could. Sorry.
Hi, Dave, did you have another question or is your hand still up from earlier?
Yes, I'm wondering if, I see that Board of Regents Chair Moore is here, and I'm wondering if he would take a question.
Yeah, actually, Board of Regents, he I think logged into the wrong thing, and I'm sorry. I don't think that Board of Regents, I think he's only monitoring. He is not able to make comments, and I actually would encourage the board chair to here's a shout out to KHON. Watch KHON's live stream of this press conference. The links have been sent. Dave, did you have another question?
No, I had a question for the Board of Regents Chair, but I guess he's not taking any. So.
Tell you what, but if you send your question to us, we'll make sure we'll get it answered.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So go ahead, Brent.
Cloud Chinen.
Hey, Dan. Sorry. So obviously you kind of alluded to it in your opening statement, just the pressure that has been kind of publicly put on Dave Matlin lately. Has there been any sort of conversation or inkling towards resignation or anything of that sort, stepping down, anything that has happened conversation wise, or is that even on the table for his resignation or exit of any kind?
So I did address it in the statement, and I think it's safe to say that Dave Matlin has the full support of university leadership, unquestionable. And I think that's all I can say about that. But I think, again, Dave Matlin has our full support. And it's not because of anything other than the last 7 years of David Matlin effectively and efficiently running that athletic department and making tough choices and just being a man of integrity. And you know what? He'll be the first to acknowledge that Graham was a mistake. He'll be the first to acknowledge that he's not perfect, but he's willing to make the tough decisions. And more often than not, they're the right decisions.
Josh Pacheco.
Thanks. I promise this is one question here. Obviously, the meeting with June yesterday. Have there been any other meetings with any other candidates either yesterday or today?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Josh. I'm not going to go into the details of the ongoing candidate search, coach search, but I appreciate the question.
Jen Bonita.
There's about a week and a half till the national letter of intent, signing day. Is UH confident that they will have a coach hired by that time?
I would say yes.
Brian McGinnis.
Hey, Dan, I'm just curious your thought.
Brian.
After this process is kind of played out, in the public in a lot of ways, the person who does get the job, if it's not June Jones, what do you think this will be like for them now, with this process playing out the way it has?
Well, I think whoever is hired for the job will be up for the challenge. And I tell you one thing, I bet you even Coach Jones ultimately supports whoever we hire because he bleeds green. And I hope our fans support whoever's hired. And obviously there's going to be a lot of eyes on that situation. And
unfortunately, we're really not going to be able to judge off of the upcoming season because of the situation that we're in. As Jen mentioned, with National Letter of Intent Day coming on us, and hopefully we could have another surprising, a great year, as we have done in the past. But we would ask that everyone support the football program, the Rainbows, and also whoever is hired to take over the reins of the program. And we're going to show that we've learned from our mistakes, but there are things out of our control. And these aren't excuses. This is context. Before everything happened with Coach Graham, we were already in a major recruiting hole because we lost Aloha Stadium. We're playing in a 9,000 seat arena. It's beautiful. It was amazing that it was open in time, even though we didn't have fans because of COVID. And we're going to have to expand it to make sure that we meet Division I requirements. But let's not kid ourselves. Those are the types of things that we're going to be up against when we're on the recruiting trail. Recruiting for the best athletes that we can to play here in Hawaii and that would represent Hawaii. The other thing too is it's not an excuse, but it's the truth. It's context. The transfer portal. That's something we're all going to have to learn to negotiate. Some of the best programs in the country have lost their top players. And we're not immune to it. And you know what too? We're not complaining about it. I think it's about time that student athletes had the right to have some control over their careers. But the new coach is also going to have to navigate that, the stadium, and then, of course, everything else that comes with the pleasures of coaching at the University of Hawaii. But this is a great job. This is a great program. This is a great school. It has a great history, and the Rainbows will rise again.
Got Sam Spangler, followed by Stephen Tsai, and then Dave. I know you had one more question.
Hey, Dan, thanks a lot for asking our questions. There's obviously a ton of support for June Jones as head coach. We're here because of it. Where does the fan support and what the fans want rank in this hiring process? Like, what does it matter as far as this decision goes?
I really hate to say it this way, but to quote a state senator, it's not a popularity contest. With that said, of course, it means a lot to Athletic Director Matlin and his team that are looking to hire the best possible candidate. And we had a second meeting with Coach Jones, I think, which shows that we were serious about trying to figure out a way to make it happen in a way that would be the best for the program, again, short term and long term.
Stephen Tsai.
Oh, appreciate you doing this today, Dan. I was questioning if a potential successor needs to be groomed and mentored, does that mean he's not ready to be a head coach now if you were offered the job?
I guess it would depend on, you have to fill in all the blanks in the names there to see whether that statement would be ultimately true or not. But the fact of the matter is that if we have to pick someone who's green and perhaps they're not ready, then you know what? Looks like it's their time, and we're going to be buying them 100%. And we're going to do everything we can to support them, whether it's a veteran coach or whether it's someone coming in and we're giving them that golden opportunity for the first time in their career, like being a head coach of a Division I football program.
Dave, you're next, and then Scott. I'm sorry, I missed you earlier. You'll be up next.
Dan, I have kind of a two-part question, and it will be quick though. But I don't.
The Josh Pacheco rule, Dave. Sorry, one question at a time. No, I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
Well, I'll try to make it into one question then. Okay, so this concerns Rich Miano. Is it correct that he was ruled out as being allowed to be part of Coach Jones' staff, and can Rich Miano now re-enter as a head coach candidate since he pulled out as a head coach in order to support Coach Jones?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have any specific information on Coach Miano. I can try to follow up and see what I can find out for you, though. If you could do me a favor, Dave, if you could also send that in an email, and I'll see what we can say and can't say.
Thanks, Dave. Scott.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan. I've got a quick two-parter too, but it'll be very quick. One, how come David is not holding this press conference today? Part one. And part two, in his 7-year tenure, has he ever offered a head coach a 2 to 3 year contract to initiate negotiations?
So I think let's make this very, very clear. I am the spokesman of the University of Hawaii. And I hope that shows the importance of what we're talking about here today. I work closely with Athletic Director Matlin. I work closely with the UH leadership team. I work closely with the campuses, depending on what situation we're dealing with. So just because Matlin's not doing this press conference doesn't mean he doesn't want to make himself available and won't. I think all of you know who've covered UH sports knows that David Matlin is extremely accessible. The fact of the matter is right now he's trying to hire a football coach and the clock is ticking. So I wouldn't read too much into AD Matlin not being available. And Scott, I am so sorry, but I forgot the second part of your question.
In his 7-year tenure as AD, has he at any time offered a 2 or 3 year contract to a head coach to initiate negotiations?
So I got to say, I think that question is moot, because even if he didn't, why not? The question could be, why hasn't he done it before? So again, the contract offers for any coach depends on the candidate, the situation, and everything. So I can't verify if he's ever tried to do something like this before, though it makes absolute sense now, at least in the minds of UH. It was a good plan to try to execute. And, there's a famous saying that if we get like 40 or 50% done of what we'd like, that's a win. And so sure, we started there, but who knows where we could have ended if we were still at the negotiating table with Coach Jones.
Keith DeMulder, you had another question?
Yes, I did. I think you mentioned a second meeting with Jones. Was that yesterday as well? Did that happen today, or was it kind of all in the same time frame, or is that like a new development type thing? And if that is so, what details can you share about that?
So I'm not going to share details about number of candidates, number of meetings with everybody, but because of this situation and again, how it's been done so publicly from the moment Graham's job was posted, this very public campaign to put pressure on the University of Hawaii. We did meet with Coach Jones on Wednesday. And so there was an initial meeting with the candidates that we were considering. And then there was going to be a second round. And so yesterday was a second round.
Okay. I believe that's it.
No, I think Dave's got another question.
Dave, did you have another question? No. Okay. Dan, any closing statements?
I want to thank everybody for being here. I know it's a Saturday and it was last minute, but we really felt it was important to come out and say something, to explain the process, to explain or at least share some of the context that I think is necessary for people to have a real view of the situation. We understand that people are not going to be happy with what's happened. We know there are some diehard June Jones fans out there, and we know why they're diehard fans. And we respect that, and we respect Coach. We have nothing but respect for Coach Jones. But we had to come here. We had to say something. And I think more importantly, at least for me personally, I think something had to be said for David Matlin. I don't think this state realizes how lucky they are to have someone like David Matlin running the athletic program. And in any case, I think I'll just leave it at that. But I want to thank everybody. And please don't hesitate to follow up if you have any questions.